Oh my God. Do you mind if I ask you for some tips and advice? I mean, I want advice for how to last in Cleveland 35 years.
I always thought that it was going to be a short stay.
Did you?
Yeah, I really did. I had family back in Boston. I was from Boston, and I don't know. It was just when I got to town, it was a city, but it was a homey city.
Yeah. Very welcoming, right?
And I just thought it was very easy to live here. It had everything that I wanted. It had major sports, and it had real tradition.
Yeah. At what point, Jim, did you I'm a Clevelander now. This is home.
Probably a couple of years in, when Bernie Kosar got the Browns going, which was almost right away when I got here, and they had a great run then in that '86 season, and I was doing a lot more, and I think all of a sudden I just kind of connected. I will never forget the build-up to those playoff games, the Jet playoff game, and
a song a week.
Yeah, a song a week.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Bernie, and then Don Strock had a song Strock around the clock. But I just couldn't believe the frenzy. And you really got caught up in it, and I said, wow, I would really want to be a part of this.
I've always wanted to ask you this. What's your favorite Cleveland sports moment?
I think when the Cavaliers won the championship. Yeah. That night was absolutely amazing, Jay. I mean, I don't know where you were. You'll never forget it, right?
I was here, and it was I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, that was really something. And then there's the other part of the equation that plays in my mind, and probably a lot of people, and I say, wow, 1.3 million at that parade, and that was legit. What would it be like?
Yeah.
If the Browns won the Super Bowl?
What would it be like?
I don't know.
I think it would.
I think it would be.
It would be cold weather, but I still think there'd be more fans out.
I do, yeah.
I hope we get to experience it at some point. Yeah. I hope you don't mind, but I have a million questions like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's grab a bite and watch the game.
As we leave the home run porch here, that night against the Cubs, right here where that home run went.
This was the epicenter, really, of that series.
That was one of the most unbelievable moments, I think. And I know the ending was bad. For sheer drama, that was a movie. Rajay Davis starred in a movie that night.
I so agree. That was the most euphoria I'd ever felt as a sports fan.
That was the thrill of sort of victory, but that was the agony of defeat.
Let's go eat.
All right. All right, Jay, here we are. We are in the catbird seat, as the great Red Barber used to say on the Brooklyn Dodgers broadcast. One of my other favorite days was when this opened.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing was, it was so well timed because it's a beautiful ballpark, and they were getting good right at the right time. All those guys were going to really become great players.
And I just remember the enthusiasm for the city and the fan base and the 455 consecutive sellouts.
You hit it.
And I just, it was so fun for me because I've always been a baseball first guy, always. I love baseball, always have. And to see a team that finally scratched the itch of the fan base was such fun. And I know they didn't win it and they never got over the top, but what great memories they gave us in those mid-90s. It was a powerhouse team and maybe one of the best to never win a World Series.
I can't believe they didn't win a World Series. I just, it doesn't make sense. I can remember the night that Jim Thome caught that ball, and it was early September, and they were finally going to go to the postseason in 1995. The night they won it, it was just pandemonium. No, there was no drama because they had like a 25-game lead.
But it was still like the cork out of the bottle.
The night they won the pennant, and they beat Seattle in the 6th game, and we were out in Seattle, and they flew right home that night. Yeah. And they got home at I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, Cleveland time, and Mike Hargrove will always say, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, how many fans
were out, and they had a bus, and the people lined the sideways, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I remember seeing those pictures in the video, just thinking, that's the kind of sports fan base Cleveland has. I always, Jim, used to wonder, particularly over the last 10 years, how in the world you were able to get through some of those games. At the beginning of every game, you would sound like, here we go, Super Bowl, let's go.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you did it. I really don't.
I remember Dick Enberg was the great Dick Enberg, who was just so approachable. And he told me, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen at a game.
Yeah.
So you go into the game and you go in and you expect anything. And so even when the Browns were 0-15 going to the last game of the season, you never knew. And that's how I played it.
That's why I think I've always enjoyed listening to you. And the Cleveland fans, I think, they understand that about you, that you're in it until the very last second.
It's a really cherished position. And even when someone introduces you, if you're at something and they say, and here's Jim Donovan, he's the voice of the Browns.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it kind of sends something up your spine.
Sure.
And it's probably because of the guys that did it before me.
Absolutely,
Gibbs Shanley was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Casey Coleman's dad, Ken.
Yeah.
Who I know from Boston. He was the voice of the Red Sox.
Nev Chandler was
amazing.
They were all, Cleveland's been very blessed.
Yeah.
I mean, you think we've had Tom Hamilton on the radio for the Indians for a couple of decades.
Right.
You've done the Browns. Those that preceded you in that call, I don't know how we've been so lucky to have that quality of a broadcaster for our teams, but I think the fan demands it, Jimmy. These are smart fans, and they're going to see through anybody that isn't as committed and as passionate about these games as they are. And I know I speak for Browns fans everywhere. Thanks, man.
They're great fans, I have to tell you, and they have truly been tested, and you're one of them. You've been tested. And I think that feeling in the stadium on that Thursday night game when they finally won, and they beat the Jets, and Baker Mayfield became Baker Mayfield. If you could bottle that emotion in the stadium that night,
I agree.
Wow, I have to tell you.
It was almost, you could taste it, that this isn't a mirage. This guy, not Johnny Manziel and not Brady Quinn and all the others that we had hoped would be the guy.
Right.
It was evident within 5 throws that he's our guy, and we finally got that position right.
Yeah, I have to tell you, what a long ride to get to that position. That's a long ride.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for spending the day with me at a ball game. I hate to sound like constant fanboy, but it is. I've enjoyed it. I really have. I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, and I can't wait to share the same news and to just be your colleague is it's great fun for me.
It's amazing having you here. I have to tell you. You and I remember the first time we met in the end zone.
Yes.
At the Rose Bowl. John Cooper's greatest day as a head coach.
Yes,
right?
You're right. You're right.
Ohio State, and you and I the whole day, and that was an amazing game.
Yeah.
And that's a bucket list moment for me to be at the Rose Bowl at that time of day.
And the way they want to. For you, the game, the memorable thing about that day was the game. For me, I was standing next to Jim Donovan getting to talk to. I called my parents later that day. I've told you this story, but they literally would record all of your sportscasts and send the tapes to me at college, really nice. So I could study your work and your style. And so for me, some years later, to be working in Columbus and watching the Rose Bowl next to you, I literally. The fact that Ohio State won the game was awesome, but that was the sub-headline. The headline was Jay Spence Day with Jim Donovan.
That was a great
That was
thing.
great.
I mean,
I'll never forget that, and I just thought it was so much fun for me.
Well, I tell you, you've always been so cool. You've been cool about Cleveland, and you represented us amazingly well through the good times and a lot of rough times.
It wasn't always easy.
Yeah, you stood in there and took a lot of shrapnel for us, and I know people really thanked you for that. And it's amazing to have you here. I mean, it's really
great to be here.
Good for you.
And it was my pleasure, too, by the way, to take those bullets. I'd do it all over again. Jimmy, thanks.
Thank you,
I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.